Today we'll be talking about managing logins and security with IDERA's SQL Admin Toolset. SQL Admin Toolset is a user-based application that offers 24 different applets that can make a DBA's life a lot easier. Today we'll be talking about login copy, user clone, linked server copy, and password checker. The login copy tool, seen here, helps you keep SQL Server logins synchronized between instances by letting you transfer logins using a simple, easy-to-use interface with minimal administrative effort. Easy login transfer is important for many reasons. Some examples are to synchronize multiple environments like dev, prod, and QA environments, making sure that the logins are propagated to all the SQL instances in all three environments. Or if you are upgrading your SQL instances and want to make sure all the logins on the old SQL instance are copied to the new one before you decommission the old instance. Similarly, if you're migrating your SQL environment to Azure or AWS, verifying that the cloud instances have all the SQL logins that the on-prem instances have before you go live can be very helpful. You can use SQL Login Copy to preview the missing SQL Server logins on any secondary SQL server, or move the SQL logins to any secondary server. To use Login Copy, bring up the Admin Toolset like I have here, click on Login Copy, and specify the source and destination SQL servers that you would like to preview or copy logins from. Now that could be a local SQL instance, or it can be a remote instance. You can also supply both Windows credentials and SQL Server credentials to connect to them. You can also test that connection here. After passing that connection, move on to the destination SQL instance. After testing the connection, you can preview the missing logins. Here you'll get a list of all the logins that can be moved from the source to the destination. You could select them all or individually copy logins over. Once you've selected the logins you'd like to move, just hit Copy Logins, and the logins have been replicated on the new SQL instance. The next applet to discuss is User Clone. To get to User Clone, exit out of whatever applet you're using and move to the SQL Admin Toolset Launchpad. Here you can click User and that will bring up the User Clone applet. The User Clone tool helps you create new logins by copying an existing SQL Server user and using that login as a template. This is especially helpful if you have new people joining your team, or if someone is leaving your team and you want to use the same permissions for that person's replacement. To use User Clone, first specify the source user. That can be on a local SQL Server or a remote SQL Server. You can put in different credentials, both either Windows or SQL, for the connection to that SQL instance. I'm going to go ahead and use the local instance. Then browse to the user that you would like to clone. After you select that user, select where you would like to clone that user. Now again, it can be either local or remote, and you can specify different connections to connect to that SQL instance. Here you can rename the user. You can also specify a different password, include database access, include object level permissions, include schema ownership. Then down here you can clone the user, or you can create SQL scripts to create that user if you want to make adjustments, or if you want to take that script and put it into some other process, you can do so. Here I'll just hit clone user, and the process is complete. Note that if you want to copy the script that was used out, you can save it here or copy it to the clipboard. After you've used User Clone or copied your logins to a different SQL instance, another level of security that you might want to use within the admin tool set is the password checker applet. To get to the password checker applet, just navigate back to the Launchpad for the SQL Admin Toolset, then select Password Checker. Here you can select a SQL Server that you want to work with. It could be local or remote. You can use Windows authentication or SQL authentication, and you can test that connection before you get started. The Password Checker tool helps you evaluate and strengthen your SQL Server password policy, such as finding weak passwords that can make your SQL Server vulnerable to outside attack. You can see exactly which logins are at risk so that you can replace the weak passwords with strong passwords. To do that, you can test the connection to that SQL instance. After doing that, go into the options and decide what you would like to check as far as password strength. You can look at all logins, just SA accounts. You can search by role. You can search by database role. Or you can put in your own specified list of logins that you'd like to check. Now, one thing to remember is that you can look at one SQL instance at a time, or you can use something called server groups, which if you look at the SQL Admin Toolset Launchpad can be configured down here at the very bottom of that Launchpad. Server groups allow you to connect to multiple SQL instances at one time. So if you would like to check your password strength against 15 or 20 different SQL instances, you can configure a group and then look at it or connect to it here in Password Checker. On the right hand side, you'll notice that we have specified passwords to check. This list is already pre-populated, so we have our top 10 most likely passwords that are weak out there. You can also use Nifty 50, this 800 common passwords option, or we have this big list of 2,400 plus passwords that are commonly used to connect to SQL instances. You can also look at both blank passwords and passwords that match the logins as well. Once you decide the options that fit your criteria, hit Check Passwords, and a list of SQL logins will show up. Any login that has a weak password will list with a red X, and you can see if it's the same as the login, if it's a blank account, or if it's just a weak password, or if it's a password that matches one of the passwords that's already listed in this in the checklist. Lastly today, if you would like to move linked servers from a source to a destination server, you can do that with the linked server copy applet, which is also located on the Launchpad. Here, just click linked server copy. The applet will come up, specify the source, specify the destination. Again, you can use different credentials. Test the connection as needed. And then you can preview the missing linked servers, as well as copy that linked server if you wish. All these applets can be used to add an extra level of security with regard to your logins and your security settings.